Okay, so thank you for joining today's session. I'm Andrew Campbell-Eady. I'm the Head of Communications and Events at the Irish Centre for Diversity. We recently held the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards 2026 to recognise and celebrate the valuable work being done to progress diversity and inclusion in Ireland's workplaces. This webinar series has been devised to share the insights and experiences from the sponsor, the winner, and finalists so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or to help with entering the next award cycle. Today's session focuses on the category Company of the Year, and huge thanks to Jones Engineering for sponsoring it. This category recognises the organisations that are really leading the charge when it comes to diversity and inclusion and can demonstrate that they have this vital area at the heart of their business. So quick words about our sponsor, Jones Engineering. Jones Engineering is a multidisciplined engineering contracting company offering the complete range of engineering and building services installations. The team are recently accredited with our Investors in Diversity Gold, which is the top tier of Ireland's premier diversity and inclusion accreditation and framework for supporting progress in this vital area. Some housekeeping before we start. I'll shortly hand over to the award sponsor, and then we'll hear from some of the finalists and end with the award winner, wrapping up in about an hour. Automatic closed captions are available with the team's controls, and I believe that the team behind the scenes will drop something into the chat just to remind you how to access those if you need it. The session's being recorded and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website. Everyone is muted except the panel, but please do share any comments in the chat function, and we'll love to hear which organisations you're joining us from. There isn't time for a Q&A because we've got a lot of finalists to get through. But if you have any specific questions after watching or while watching this webinar, you're welcome to contact any of the panelists through LinkedIn and then pose your question to them that way. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our host for today's session, Carmel Walsh, who's the Chief People Officer at Jones Engineering. She will shine a light on Jones Engineering's diversity and inclusion advances and lead what is sure to be an enlightening conversation. Before we start, it's important to mention that Jones Engineering, like the other sponsors and the Irish Centre for Diversity, had no part in the judging process and couldn't enter themselves. Over to you, Carmel.
Thanks, Andrew. So Jones Engineering and where we're at on our diversity and inclusion, it's actually a really important topic for us. And it's, Jones Engineering, we're nothing without our people. So we talk about engineering through our people. So diversity and inclusion is absolutely embedded as part of our people strategy. And I suppose at a high level, why it's important, I suppose there's a recognition here that having a good diversity and inclusion strategy, that it drives more innovation, better problem solving in our engineering world. And it's just good for our business. And it's a really important topic in terms of attracting talent into the organisation. And also there's an expectation from our workforce around understanding what we're doing in this space. So for retention purposes, it's really important as well. So we've, I suppose, partnered with the Centre for Diversity in terms of their framework and having a very, I suppose, structured way in terms of how we're approaching it. And our engineers have really got behind that. They like that structured way of doing things. So it's a critical piece of how we do things here at Jones. What I suppose was the first time that we've ever partnered on this and sponsored something like this. And I was blown away by the event last Friday because we hadn't been at it before. So well done to everybody who got awards. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories and your experiences. So I suppose the first finalist, Steve from Broadlake, I'd love to understand from your perspective what success looks like for you and I see here that just the growth that you've had in your organisation is phenomenal. So just really like to understand how you define success from a D&I perspective across your business.
Great. Hi everyone. So my name's Steve Jakes. I'm an executive advisor at Broadlake, and I straddle two areas of our work. One is around impact, which incorporates the work we do around diversity and equity and belonging, and also I advise on our children's services, which form part of our network. So just very briefly about Broadlake, for those of you who don't know, we're a private investment company, and we are typically investing in businesses that are impact orientated, so generally across sort of health, social care, sustainability, employee well-being. Some of our brands within our network include Odyssey Social Care, which is a national children's residential care service, TTM Healthcare, which is an MMA Healthcare, which are healthcare and social care recruitment agencies. We have Bright Path, which is a healthcare support service for people with complex health needs. And probably our most known brand is probably the Handmade Soap Company, which develops incredible cosmetic products, all handmade and beautifully designed. So they're just some of the businesses that form part of the Broadlake family. Broadlake is owned by two entrepreneurial investors, Pete Smith and Brian Crowley, and they've been involved in developing businesses over many years. Pete previously was involved in Noonan's, which some of you may know, a large cleaning business. So the journey for Broadlake in terms of D&I was I guess we came to the table later in life. You know, back in 2023, the owners of Broadlake and the leadership team were very keen to emphasize that private investment businesses didn't have to be all orientated around money and making businesses, and that actually there was an important challenge to businesses to also make contribution in the world and make a positive impact. And so in 2023, we launched our 3 times 10 times vision, which was largely centered around, you know, building a business that grew 3 times the size. So, you know, both in terms of opportunity, but also revenue and, you know, all the financials, the commercial success of a business, but also to have 10 times the impact in the world that we live in. And this was really driven and underpinned by the development of what we called our Have Positive Impact Charter, and have underpins 4 pillars that we committed to focusing on, which was happy places, accessibility for everyone, being a valued member of the community, and environmental urgency. And so we committed as a business to deliverables and actions that really drove implementing initiatives and programs and activities that sat under those pillars. In particular, one of the big pieces of work that we did as part of our DEI journey was to become probably Ireland's first B Corp registered investment company. So we're very proud of that, because one of the things that I guess tells the world is that as an investment company, we place both stakeholders and shareholders at equal value. And I think that is something that you know, is a particular challenge in the finance and investment world, to really see how we can leverage and use all the skills and knowledge and financial capacity that we have to also make a positive and lasting contribution and impact in the community and around us. So that kind of sets the scene for who Broadlake is, and really what began to drive the work that we were doing in the DEI space. So I took on the executive sponsorship for the work that we did in DEI. My background is in social work, and I've spent the last 30 years working in social service orientated businesses, but also always had a very keen eye to how we build companies and workplaces that are fair, that they're accessible, that people can flourish and thrive. And it's been lovely to work within the Broadlake network that wholeheartedly believes in that too, and where you have owners of a business committed to driving that forward, because ultimately this is about wanting people to flourish and thrive and to bring their whole selves to work. And so that's what our focus has always been about. So, DEI, as I would say, as somebody I think said earlier, that really it forms the lifeblood of our organization, and it's a no-brainer. I think more recently, companies have been tested around whether this is meaningful work for them or whether it's tokenistic activity. And I remember saying to Pete Smith, one of the owners of Broadlake, just over a year ago, that actually now is the time more than ever for companies to stand strong and say, actually, DEI is not only good for business, but it's good for the community, it's good for people. And that why wouldn't you want to run businesses where everybody can be themselves and have all the opportunities available to them and flourish? So Carmel, to go back to your question about, how do we measure success, and, our commitment to wanting to have workplaces where people can be themselves, where people have opportunity, and the evolution of our work resulted in the development of what we call our accessibility for everyone strategy, which basically was a form of actions that we put together. It was written down and then underpinned by a whole range of deliverables that related to our workforce, that related to development and training, accessibility in terms of office accessibility, digital accessibility, and partnerships as well. So a key part of, I think, how we measure success in the work that we're doing in the DEI space is around the partnerships we have with people like Open Doors Initiative, where we work with them on a couple of mentoring for their participants. We work with them on a Rise Up project, which is a partnership with them and TU Dublin to provide entrepreneurial training for immigrants and for people who've immigrated to Ireland, and refugees and asylum seekers, to give those people opportunities in terms of building their entrepreneurial capability. We are a partner with Pride at Work. So building sort of partnerships, common purpose and common knowledge, just some of the organizations that we've partnered with to deliver initiatives and joint programs. We also very much wanted to demonstrate our allyship as well, across a range of domains, and to really show that as a business, we were committed to promoting and supporting people, particularly people in marginalized communities, etc. So, and that's been something that I think has been very important to us in terms of how we measure the impact of DEI in the work that we do. So it's not, we built an employee resource network. So we have our staff from across our businesses coming together. They're responsible and involved very much in the delivery of the actions from our strategy, and create lots of those partnerships to really make sure that we're living and breathing everything we say about why we want Broadlake to be a shining light and a lead in terms of the the belief and idea that everybody should have opportunity, that everybody should flourish, everybody should not be limited in their opportunities or capabilities. So you know, the actions and the deliverables that we've put in place as a result of all of that planning is really around always keeping that centered in everything that we're doing. And because we're a network of businesses, you know, critically how we measure success is the participation of all our people from those different businesses. And I think that's been, you know, I'd say we're fairly young at it. You know, we only really started this journey in 2023. But when I look back over the last sort of, you know, two and a bit years in terms of what we've achieved in terms of partnerships, understanding our workforce more, you know, for the first time ever in 2024, we completed a workforce survey just to understand what the makeup of our employees across all our businesses. You know, something very exciting that we're doing at the moment is we're partnering with, we sponsor the Ally Award at the National LGBT Awards, the galas, and the Mammies for Trans Rights won that award last year. So we're excited about an emerging partnership that we are having with them as well. And I think one of the things I love about Broadlake is the fact that we're not just looking for kind of, you know, like glossy, shiny light DEI stuff, but also, you know, maybe align with some of the more challenging conversations that are going on at the moment, and really nailing your colors to the mast when it comes to who you want to support and how you want to be an ally. So I don't know how I'm doing for time.
That's very, I was going to say, that's a very admirable point and a very great point to kind of finish on, because I've taken huge stacks of notes here. So Steve, thank you very much for that. But I'm going to move on if we can, just to make sure with it we fit everybody in. So thank you very much for that. So back to Carmel to introduce the next panelist.
Thanks, Steve. I've jotted down a few things here myself. I'll be reaching out to you on LinkedIn. So Marcelo, you're most welcome. This is Marcelo I'll probably get this wrong now. Marcelo Figueiredo A. Silva.
Perfect.
And he's representing Greenhouse Software. So what I think we were hoping to learn a little bit more about was you've really strong engagement in your arbors and your IDEA initiatives. And what we wanted to kind of, I suppose, get a little bit more insight on today was how did you, you know, what did you learn in 2025 about creating your D&I programs that made your people feel genuinely connected to what you were doing, and proud to be part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Great to be here for the seminar. So my name is Marcelo, my pronouns are he, him, and I am an IDEA program manager here at Greenhouse. And IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Allyship. So thanks for your question, Carmel. And I'll just start with a quick intro about what we do. So Greenhouse is the leading hiring platform to help companies get measurably better at hiring. And Greenhouse exemplifies the holistic and sustained commitment to D&I within its workplace culture. So our core values are belonging, purpose, and entrepreneurship, and it guides us in embracing humanity, differences, and diverse viewpoints, enabling us to hire and retain great people. At Greenhouse, our diverse workforce, united by the dedication to the company's success, really forms the bedrock of the IDEA team, which activates the conditions for everyone to thrive. We have a cornerstone of our IDEA initiatives that helps us drive meaningful engagement throughout the year in all areas of the business, and that's our Arbors program, which creates a community and support for individuals with shared identities and allies, supports the goals and mission of Greenhouse, and promotes Greenhouse as a place where IDEA happens, creating optimal conditions for everyone to grow. Each of our 8 arbors receives an annual budget to help support its programming, and we also provide programming guidelines, setting expectations as arbor leaders balance this responsibility with their full-time roles. We stay focused on the why and what can be done as low lift that would bring a high impact. This meaningful cross-collaborative work helps us foster an inclusive environment where people feel safe, engaged, and everyone can grow. Our Arbors program goes beyond ticking boxes. I think that's something that Steve was mentioning as well, kind of like not only the shiny stuff, but kind of like what are some of the things that are really making an impact. And we have a program that builds community and focuses on cross-collaboration and intersectionality. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's about like something's already being organized by one of our arbors, and then another arbor can just, join forces and spread the word and bring a intersectionality point to an event. It's a program that empowers arbor leaders to be creative, enhance their skills, and learn new ones, and bring programming that matters and also promotes allyship, which is really core to the work that we do. For this reason, our arbor participation and engagement is really strong. 83% of employees are involved in at least one of our arbors, demonstrating widespread engagement in D&I initiatives. In 2025 only, our arbors have organized 20 initiatives with a 90 plus NPS. So you can see again a lot of initiatives, engagement, and great feedback from people. Pivoting a little bit, hiring practices are also a strong focus at Greenhouse. We know that the best teams start with hiring. As a company that is leading hiring platform, we live what we preach. So finding the best talent in processes through our software that removes bias and helps us make structured, objective hiring choices. It's not a coincidence that our employees, including leadership, are diverse in many aspects, from gender to race and ethnicity to nationalities and so on. And our commitment to D&I or IDEA is steady, and it goes beyond the greenhouse walls. We demonstrate it through various initiatives, including the long-term partnership with Paramount, that is more like in the US side. Then we have Dublin Pride here in Ireland, and the most recent partnership with the Irish Centre for Diversity. Additionally, employees avail benefits to take into consideration the diversity of our employees. They can access one of our benefits that's called Global Passports to maintain work-life harmony while in different locations around the globe. And also reconsidering people that are from different nationalities, so they don't need to take PTO to go visit their families, for example. Every employee also gets 2 IDEA holidays per year, in addition to companies' traditional paid holidays, to celebrate diverse identities and traditions during which Greenhouse remains open. And we have IDEA training. Greenhouse employees have completed training on D&I concepts, ensuring a foundational understanding across the organization. To make sure we make no assumptions, we guide our efforts on data, which shows a robust employee satisfaction and allyship. That's called our Your Voice surveys that we run internally. And I'll just finish by saying that IDEA should be embedded into the business. We really take that seriously. And at Greenhouse, we're not just building a product, we're building a diverse community with a strong sense of belonging. From hiring practices to onboarding, a culture of belonging, product insights to benefits that reflect your diverse workforce. By taking a holistic approach and actively listening to individual contributors, managers, and leadership, I'd say you are on the right track to have people feeling genuinely connected and proud to be part of initiatives. So I think that's probably all the time I have. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's it from me, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, Marcella. That's great. Very impressive, the participation rate in your arbors and your NPS score. So just really well done on that. So our next finalist is Leah Doran, and Leah joins us from Intact Insurance in Ireland and 123.ie. And I think the topic here, Leah, that is of really sounds amazing is the work that you've done on how you've moved from representation to belonging. So, in looking at that, what do you think the leadership behavior is that has had the biggest impact on how inclusion is felt around your organization?
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Doran, and I lead the reward, DEI, and talent acquisition functions for Intact Insurance and 123.ie in Ireland. We were really delighted and proud to be a finalist, and it was a great night on Friday. So, if I had to name one leadership behaviour that has had the biggest impact on how inclusion is truly felt across the company, it would be leaders consistently turning intention into everyday action and being personally accountable for it. So for us, inclusion has never been about representation alone. Like, representation matters, but belonging is what changes people's lived experience at work. And then from a commercial perspective, we really kind of view belonging as the true lever for transformation and in turn engagement. Belonging only happens when leaders move beyond sponsorship statements and make inclusion visible in how they lead, decide, listen to their teams and respond. And that mindset is very much built into how we operate. So DEI isn't a standalone initiative or a HR program. It's a strategic and moral imperative. So when we are creating the DEI strategy in January every year, we have to kind of link it straight back to the company strategy. It has to be very visible and measurable. So it's also embedded in our leadership success factors. So every leader from the executive team through to people managers is accountable for creating an environment where people feel respected, safe, and able to be themselves. And what that looks like in practice is leaders showing up, so not delegating inclusion, but actually modelling it. We see it in how our executive team leads from the front. We have a 50-50 gender balance on our executive team and clear ownership of inclusion outcomes. So we have specific sponsors on the executive team for the likes of gender diversity, neuroinclusion, disability, for example. We see it in leaders actively supporting and showing up for partnerships that we have with Business in the Community, EPIC programme. So we're in our 4th year of that partnership. We've a programme we're partnered with Deaf Schools in Dublin and Galway as 2 of our 3 work locations. Partnered with Trinity Centre for People with Intellectual Disabilities, Sanctuary Runners and Platform 55. So our leaders are not just observers, but they're participants and advocates. And we see it in moments that really matter. So how managers handle difficult conversations, how quickly concerns are addressed, and how inclusive behaviours are reinforced day to day. A great example of this shift from representation to belonging is our partnership with the Trinity Centre for People with Intellectual Disabilities. We had a student that joined us on an 8-week placement in February last year, and we're in our next placement already. Spanning through to March. The success of that experience wasn't down to the programme alone, it was down to leaders and teams adapting, listening and creating space for the students to do meaningful work across the various functions like HR, marketing and customer care. The feedback we received from the programme about her confidence and independence growing is exactly what belonging looks like in real terms. And it was holding us accountable as well and questioning how we were doing things. So for example, when that student was sitting on the customer care team listening to calls, she actually fed back then to the team leads around, how we have our processes set up to ensure that people that might be, for example, hard of hearing, are there areas that we need to kind of improve on, etc. So it's very much an interdependent relationship and partnership. And the same applies to our EPIC participants or partnerships with Business in the Community. So welcoming refugees and migrants into permanent roles really sends a powerful message. What really embeds inclusion is leaders taking responsibility for integration, development and progression once people join. So very much held accountable for, carrying out one-to-ones, providing feedback to HR, which in turn then gets fed back to Business in the Community to help enhance the partnership at that end. So that's how access turns into opportunity, really. And we know that leadership behaviour is making a difference because our people are telling us consistently and measurably. So for example, in the 2025 engagement survey, our DEI score increased to 89%, so it was up 2 points year on year. 95% of our employees reported they feel respected by their direct line manager. 92% are confident that we'll take action against harassment, and 97% feel comfortable escalating issues when something isn't right. So those numbers really matter, but what matters more is what they represent, which is trust. Trust that leaders will act, not just listen. And trust that inclusion isn't situational or dependent on who you are or which team you're in. There's consistency across the organisation. And this trust was also recognised externally when Platform 55 awarded us the Member Spotlight for Trust in Leadership at their 2025 annual summit. So again, that wasn't about policy, it's about how leaders behave when it counts. So ultimately, the leadership behaviour that's had the biggest impact is intentional, accountable leadership, leaders who understand that inclusion is created in the everyday moments, not one-off initiatives. Like, we're not ticking boxes, it's day-to-day living of these values. Leaders who are willing to learn, adjust, and sometimes be uncomfortable, because we know that more and more people, and it's in society around us, like, are more open to sharing, and it's kind of testing the people leaders style, and what traditionally might have been like one way of doing people leadership, and the fact that we're managing multi-generational workforces that are braver about speaking out about what they need. It's really, and even from a HR and training perspective, it's about how we're equipping those people leaders, and we're doing that primarily through our strategic partnerships, informing our processes, because our people leaders know that belonging doesn't just happen by accident. So that's how we move from representation to belonging, and that's why inclusion and Intact in 123.E isn't just something we talk about, it's something our people genuinely feel, and they're telling us through our engagement survey. I hope, again, I don't want to overstep or overrun my time slot, because I know there's a lot, but
there is, yeah. Okay, that's really insightful, Leah, and it sounds like a very structured and organised and measurable approach that you're taking. So next up we have Veronica van der Hoven, and she's from MUFG Investor Services, and I suppose you've had a focus on belonging, allyship and well-being, especially mental health. That seems to have got a lot of momentum in your organisation, and I think that's based on the judges' feedback. So how do you sustain open human conversations about inclusion across such a diverse and global organisation?
Thank you, Carmel, and apologies everybody for turning on and off my camera. My Wi-Fi is very bad, so I've moved around the house, and if you keep breaking up or I break up, let me know and I'll move again. So yeah, I'm Veronica van der Hoven. I'm Managing Director of People Strategy in MUFG Investor Services. I've been working in the company for the past 16 years, and I've seen such a massive change in our culture, and what we've aimed to do is create, really, to be inclusive and diverse, but really to create a sense of belonging. That has been our aim since we launched our Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. And we launched it in 2019 by launching 3 pillars, and they were gender diversity, LGBTQ+, and mental health and wellness. And very soon after we launched, of course, COVID happened. So we very much focused a lot on the needs of our employees at that time, and a lot of that was focused on mental health and well-being. Now we also have a focus on ethnicity, disability, and neurodiversity as well. But so over the years, I would say we've done very well in all of our pillars, but mental health and wellness has really grown, and is probably the one that I would say has really embedded itself without too much effort, without as much effort as the other ones on our behalf. And I believe really that's because I suppose we all have mental health, and everybody can absolutely relate to mental health throughout their lives. We appointed exec sponsors to our 3 pillars, and so our journey began. And I think the question about how you keep the conversation of inclusion going is really important, and it's not easy, and I think it requires intentionality. So in the beginning, like most companies, when you start your DEI journey, we celebrated the big notable days, so International Women's Day, International Men's Day, World Mental Health Day, Pride, and so on. And to go back to Steve's point earlier, you don't want to be a tick box exercise. So as you progress over the years, I think it's really important that you're not just focusing on, yes, let's celebrate that day, now move on to the next day to celebrate. So you need to bring it really into the business and let the business start getting involved in it and owning it as well. And we noticed that over time, people would, of course, attend our programs, be very motivated. And then, of course, everybody goes back to their day-to-day and gets on with their lives. So in 2023, we partnered with an external company called Men for Inclusion. And in the beginning, it was all about our gender pillar. So bringing men on the journey of our gender pillar. You don't want to be just preaching to the converted constantly. So I think it's very, very important to bring the men in your company along with you. And we also had our All of Us network, our gender network, and we got great support there then from the men in our company, and we still do today. But so we partnered with Men for Inclusion and we rolled out our Inclusion Champion program. So we knew to really, really embed inclusion in our company, obviously tone from the top was extremely important. So our exec members all attended this program to kickstart. They also came on a leadership call and discussed it and promoted it. And since then, we continuously roll out these programs, a few of them a year. And we have now got inclusion champions across every rank in the company, including exec members, every department, and across all regions. And we're in Asia, we're in Europe, we're in Americas, and we're in the Caribbean as well. And then additionally, with our mental health focus, we rolled out a mental health coaching program, and that's exclusively for the senior leaders in our company. So what we really needed to do was, first of all, make our senior leaders aware of their own mental health, and then the importance of taking care of our employees and checking in with our employees, not just about work-related topics. So again, tone from the top was really important to us. So that mental health coaching program continues to be rolled out now as well. And then finally, we have our mental health first aiders. And I think everybody knows what they are. We rolled that out in COVID times. And just recently, before Christmas, we rolled out our second programs. We have quite new offices in Kuala Lumpur and Cyprus, and they're very dedicated to inclusion. And we wanted to make sure that we had some first aiders there as well. So again, you come back to the problem is, yes, you roll out these great programs, but then what? What do you do with all these people? How do you keep the conversation alive and keep them involved, engaged, and committed? Everybody has their day job. So what we've done is we have involved them in opening our guest speaker events, hosting sometimes our guest speaker events, opening panels, being present at town halls. Very often a mental health first aider or mental health coach, or indeed an inclusion champion will speak at one of our town halls. And we run those every quarter, followed by an engagement survey. So they're very much involved in that, and they talk all the time. When they come on, they talk about why they are an inclusion champion or why they're a mental health first aider and so on. So it's very real, authentic, meaningful conversations. We also have involved them in a staff appreciation. So we host a staff appreciation week every September. And years ago, this was a way for us to just say thank you to our staff, whether it involved leaving a little note in their desk, chocolate, serving them breakfast, whatever it was. But now we've brought inclusion into that as well, and diversity, and we have themes for every day. Mental health and well-being really comes into it. So we might have a mindful Monday, talk Tuesday, wellness Wednesday, whatever is on Thursday, I can't remember, and a fun Friday. So we bring our DEIB into our staff appreciation week as well. And we get everybody involved, our inclusion champions, mental health first aiders, and our coaches. And that works very well. So the other thing then that we do is we need to keep everybody fresh and committed. So the Inclusion Champion program is quite a commitment. It's three-hour sessions to begin with. So we know when these people sign up to do that they are very keen, they're motivated, and we don't want to lose that. So last year we launched masterclasses for our Inclusion Champions, and they are sessions that we run in partnership again with MFI, and they could be building inclusive teams, keeping the conversation alive, and so on, behaviors, inclusive behaviors. And we get really good attendance at those sessions too. And then, of course, we have quarterly meetings where we all get together online and talk about any challenges we've seen, how everybody is getting on with, say, calling out bad behaviors in a respectful manner, and really just sharing. So I think that's it. This year, we want to really embed more our LGBTQ plus pillar. And again, we need to get the conversation going, not just HR-led. So one of the things we're doing is we're inviting a guest speaker to join us in March. And they're going to be talking about their own journey. It's a senior lady in our industry who is gay and is a really strong ambassador for DEI. And we want to launch, we have an Empowering Voices program, which is a very successful program we launched a few years ago for the females in our company. And now we want to launch that for our LGBTQ plus employees. And before we just go out and launch it, we really want to encourage our employees and create that safe space. So that's it. I think everything we do, as I said in the beginning, is intentional. I would love to get to the day that it doesn't have to be intentional, but I think, you know, you just have to keep going, keep coming up with new ways, new ideas, keeping it fresh and keeping people motivated. That's it for me.
Thanks so much, Veronica. I love hearing about some of the practical initiatives that you've done by getting your people to even do things like introducing all the webinars and a very practical way of getting it embedded. So thank you so much for your insights. Our next finalist is from Uisce Éireann, and it's Carla McMenamin. And I think the topic here that we're interested in hearing about is about your I Belong network, and how that turned your D&I into something that your team members actively shape. So could you just tell us a little bit about what's the moment that brought that to life through the power of your colleagues' voices to build out inclusion at Uisce Éireann?
Thanks so much. Yeah, Uisce Éireann, Irish Water. My name is Carla McMenamin and I'm the DEI specialist here at Uisce Éireann. And thank you so much for the chance to chat this morning, and to the Irish Centre for Diversity for an amazing night on Friday night. I'm still buzzing after it and still talking about it in the office. And great to meet so many people as well. And congratulations to PTSB. I know I've spoken to Norma a few times, and she's really supported us in Uisce Éireann as well, and through business in the community. So congratulations, and to all the finalists here today as well. So a little bit about Uisce Éireann. If you don't know Uisce Éireann, I'd be worried that you didn't, because that water you're drinking today is from Uisce Éireann. So we're responsible for delivering safe, secure and sustainable water to the homes and businesses in Ireland. And I suppose DEI is fundamental to who we are and how we operate, and we really recognise that it not only enhances our ability to serve our customers and our communities, but we know it's the right thing to do. And some of our values in Uisce Éireann are, focused really around this really important thing that is DEI. And so we launched, as you had mentioned there, the I Belong program, and it's an entire program. So it's an initiative designed to foster an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, empowered. And the program is governed by a DEI council. And so it's really cross-functional. It's a multi-level employee forum. And it's under the stewardship of 2 executive sponsors. So we have 22 members across our DEI Council. And look, as we transform and grow and develop, I Belong plays a really vital role in ensuring that we as a company have that safe space, but also that people feel a true sense of belonging and inclusion. And I know that's come up a few times here this morning as well, belonging, inclusion and diversity. So as I said, we developed our I Belong program, which was developed in 2019, and it's gone from scale to scale in terms of its maturity. So about 3 years ago, we developed and enhanced our DEI strategy. And as I mentioned, we have 22 council members. We actually went out across the organisation for varying different representatives, backgrounds, grades, and they make up that heart of those 22 members. We also have our ERGs. We have 5 ERGs, and they are members of that council. So our chairs from our ERGs sit on the council, and it's really good because it's super collaborative across the organisation. And it's not siloed. It's not in one section. We all understand that we need to bring this forward as a collective action, much like the awards the other night, a collective action of organisations together, making sure that we are committed to D&I and actually bringing it forward. So our DEI strategy, as I said, it's this 3-year strategy. We looked at it across varying different, collaborations of our council, our ERGs, different departments, getting everybody involved, having that stakeholder engagement, which is really important. One of our values is we work better together, and it really is true. We do work better together as an organization. So our 4 pillars are inclusive culture, which is all around raising awareness of DEI through inclusive leadership training, our menopause awareness training, our menopause hub, disability awareness training. We have a workforce diversity pillar as well, which is all around attracting and retaining a diverse workforce. A community impact pillar, which is really grounded in partnerships within the community, like the Open Doors Initiative, business in the community. And then at the heart of that is our 5 employee resource groups. And this is all around continued growth, development, impact, and us embracing it across the organization. One of the key highlights, I would say, and I'm just conscious of time here because I know we have a couple more to go, is our Ethnicity and Culture Network, ERG, developing a holiday swap policy. The network developed this, they identified a gap, proposed a holiday swap policy to bridge that gap. And it allows employees to exchange company designated holidays for ones that are meaningful to them. It not only recognises their cultural and religious practices, but also promotes an inclusive and supportive work environment. It's a real testament to listening to the power of our colleagues, their voices, and as I keep saying, this collaboration of the I Belong programme, and it develops that best practice. Because if we don't identify the blind spots and the gaps, we really can't do anything about it, can we? So with that in mind, we developed inclusive hiring toolkits, generational pilots this year, and many, many more initiatives, much like the other organisations that have spoken about it as well. And we were delighted to get our silver and bronze this year as well with the Irish Centre for Diversity, which is really, really important and really holds us accountable as an organisation within this framework. So thank you so much for your time this morning. And as I said, congratulations again to PTSB on this award.
Thank you, Carla. That was very insightful. So it sounds like you've a lot of work there, very interested in the holiday swap initiative. So we'll move on now to our penultimate finalist, which is Glenveigh. And the judges there were really impressed, and the organisation is represented today by Paula Voiseau. So congratulations, Paula, on being highly commended in the category. So you've, I suppose, had significant progress in your industry, which is not known for diversity. So what we'd really like to understand a bit more about is how did you build that trust and psychological safety that allows people to show up, speak up, and share who they are?
Thanks, Carmel, and congratulations to all the finalists and to PTSB as well for taking home the top prize. You're absolutely thrilled to be finalists, and even more proud and delighted to be coming home with the highly commended award. I think we're the first construction company to have got that, so immensely proud. And as Carla said, we're still buzzing, still talking about it. It was a fantastic night, and actually taking away the prize was almost a bonus because the night itself was so amazing and such a great experience to have you know, the knowledge share that happened from everybody that spoke on the stage. So thanks and congrats to the Irish Centre for Diversity for such a fantastic evening. And the question around how we, you know, the construction industry is not known to be diverse, you'd actually be surprised to learn that Glenveigh is quite diverse. And some of the notable stats for ourselves are that we actually have 36% females at Glenveigh against an industry average of about 11%. So very strong on female participation in our industry. We've 29 nationalities. We've 43% females on our board, and 14% of our employees are non-EEA. So about 27% non-Irish, but about 14% outside of the EEA as well, employed by us. So we are actually very, very diverse. And where the work really comes is around inclusion. So we have made a commitment, and we did make a commitment through our strategy to create a workplace that reflects the communities in which we operate. So it was a very, very strong strategy put out by Glenveigh, and we report on that annually. And I think that was the first thing around creating that psychologically safe environment. One of our values is actually safety first, which brings in obviously, you know, the hard hat and the boots on site, but equally that psychological safety and people feeling safe at work and bringing their best selves at work. So from an outward perspective, publicly committing to creating an inclusive environment with better representation and to get using our influence in the community was kind of the first point around creating that environment. We have a strong governance as well around our ED&I strategy. So it is led by ED&I steering group of senior leadership, and I myself sit on that as well as kind of the HR lead on it. It's sponsored by 2 of our executive committee members, and it reports up into the ESR, which is a board level committee, or ESR committee. So there is that strong governance and accountability there. And I think that's really, really important and imperative in terms of, leadership, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk as well. So that was kind of the first point, is the governance and the leadership, accountability and commitment, and, showing up to not just events, and as many of our participants here have said, it's not just about the events and the initiative, it's about the meaning behind them, the intent behind them, why are we doing it? We have 5 really, really active employee network groups, and we also have our mental health ambassador group, and we have a sports and social committee that all work together to make sure that whatever happens during the year throughout those or through those committees and groups is obviously celebration when it comes to sports and social particularly, but also that there's the program of education that happens for the through the employee network groups, and why are we doing them, what measures are we taking out of them, are they getting good, not just attendance, but good feedback, and are we listening to our employees around their needs, their wants, their desires, and that's that's another key point around people feeling psychologically safe, is that listening ear, getting the feedback, responding to the feedback, and understanding exactly what is needed and required, from the network groups, the social committee, and the wellbeing ambassadors. And then, the third thing then is more about the everyday actions. Like I mentioned, safety first is one of our values, as is collaboration. We collaborate, we have 15 construction sites, our head office, and we, aside from our almost 500 employees, we also have about 1,000 subcontractors that come to our sites every day, not to mention, clients, customers, purchasers. So the whole environment, is around being safe to be yourself at work, because it's the workplace not just for Glenveagh, but for the contractors that come to our sites every day. And it's, it's holding everybody accountable for, making sure that happens. All of our employees receive online training when they commence work with us around unconscious bias, inclusive behaviour, and ED&I, and we did make a commitment to educating everybody around that in our strategy, and I'm happy to say everybody has attended that training now, and they continue to do so. But equally, our subcontractors, before they set foot on site, they go through an induction. So we developed an ED&I an inclusion charter, which all of our subcontractors have signed up to through the induction and onboarding for them to actually work on one of our sites. So that was also, I suppose, really, really key in making the whole workplace, site and office, a place where people can feel safe to kind of speak up and be themselves. So it's sort of a multi-layered approach. So it's the leadership and accountability from the top down and the board level commitment. It's the public declaration of our intention and our commitment and our KPIs. It's the policies and procedures that underpin everything that we do. But it's all, it's importantly, it's the employees, the network groups and committees that actually bring all of that to life, and actually drive the progress forward, and the listening to people's needs, wants, desires, concerns, and responding to those. So I suppose in summary, diversity is a reality for us, and it has been for the last number of years, but it's intentionally moving the dial towards inclusion, which actually keeps people, safe at work, bringing their best selves to work, and ultimately delivers better outcomes for them as individuals, but also for us as a business. So it's vital that we continue the journey and continue to make progress in the area.
Thank you very much, Paula, for all of that. Carmel, sorry, excuse me, I'm just going to jump in just to let everybody know there's been some amazing sharing today, and it's such a valuable area, such a valuable topic, and it's so interesting to hear, and so valuable to hear about all the work that's been going on and that's being done. So we are going to run over the allocated time, so apologies for that. But without further ado, I'm going to hand back to Carmel, and then I believe the winner. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. So moving on to our last finalist today, which was the winner of the category, PTSB, represented today by Norma Conway. So huge congratulations, Norma, on winning in the category. My understanding is the judges were really impressed about your approach on inclusion and how visible it is across the organisation, and how you support your colleagues, your customers, and your investment in your communities. And I think it was the scope of those strategies and the commitment to the internal and external impact that really made your nomination stand out to the judges. So can you tell us a little bit about what are the anchors that work, and how do you keep it so values-led?
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks very much, Carmel. So my name is Norma Conway. I'm the DEI and Wellbeing Manager with PTSB, so I work within the broader people team. And I suppose a big thank you to start with to Jones Engineering for sponsoring the award, but also to the Irish Centre for Diversity. I think the sentiment has been the same across all the finalists today. You know, we had an absolutely fantastic night on Friday night, and sometimes it's kind of the medicine that we needed to keep us going. And I think we all felt that collective support in the room on Friday night. So we're very, very proud in PTSB to have been awarded Company of the Year, and it's a result of many years of hard work on DEI. You know, we had our own customer and people town hall yesterday, and our Chief Customer and People Officer was there. Our CEO came for a Q&A, and there was a lot of talk around how absolutely delighted we were to win this award, and how it really was an organisation-wide award and recognition of the work everybody's been doing for the last number of years. So we're very, very proud. Just kind of, I suppose, a brief overview on PTSB. Hopefully most people are familiar with us. We're one of the 3 pillar banks in Ireland. We have 98 branches nationwide, so we're very much in the community. You know, we've 1.3 million customers around Ireland. We're circa 3,000 colleagues across multiple functions. You know, being a bank, we do talk about the numbers a lot. And similar to a lot of the speakers today, you know, we have anywhere between kind of 65 and 75 nationalities working across the bank at any given time. It does fluctuate. We currently have 55% female representation on the board, which we're very, very proud of. And in and around 20% of colleagues are from countries other than Ireland. So, you know, DEI has been a really key area of focus for us. Really, since 2017, we launched our first DEI strategy in 2018. And since then, we've refreshed that strategy periodically. And we're now committed very much to a continuous improvement model aligned to the Irish Centre for Diversity and to the Gold accreditation, where we go through the accreditation process, we update our strategy based on the feedback, we make the improvements, and then we go through the accreditation again. And that ensures that we're constantly focused on improving ourselves and evolving and staying really close to best practice. And that commitment is there from the executive committee, from our board, from across the organisation. You know, the aim has always been to have DEI integrated in everything that we do, so that DEI strategy and the actions within it, you know, they're owned across the organisation, not just by us and people. And that, I would say, is really key. Back to your question, Carmel, about what anchors our work. And it's quite simple, really, but we have a very deep understanding across the bank that we need to reflect the customers that we serve. We need to reflect modern Ireland and provide products and services for customers in modern Ireland. And that's deeply rooted in everything that we do. And it's a very simple message. I suppose it's been very simple, particularly over the last year, to be able to use that as our anchor as we talk around DEI and the importance of it, because it's very simple. If we can't serve those customers, we have a big challenge. But that's reflected very much in our day-to-day actions. And really importantly, our commitment to DEI has been called out publicly by the chair of our board. You know, we have a fantastic role model in Julie O'Neill. And this time last year, when you know, some companies were turning their back on DEI, Julie made a really clear statement in our externally published annual report to say that we remained committed to DEI. We're proud of our progress, and that we continue to focus and commit our commitment to improve. And that really has set the tone for us in PTSB. So when we started to work on the submission, and I say we, Nicole from my team is on the call today. Nicole worked on the submission, but what we tried to do is capture our activities and our impact across colleagues, customers, and communities. So I won't go through all the initiatives, but I'll just call out maybe some of those standout ones for each of those headings. And similar to some of the speakers we've heard today, there's a lot of initiatives crossover, which is really, really good to see. We've mandatory DEI e-learning, we've disability awareness training, mental health training. We have support for colleagues across all the life stages, and this is one of the areas that really needs to keep evolving, everything from preconception care to career coaching for new parents, menopause supports. We have designated support colleagues who've been trained with Women's Aid to provide support for colleagues experiencing domestic violence. And more recently, we've partnered with, many of you will be familiar with Dr. Mamobo Ogoro and GORM, and we're one of the early adapters in the Unified Business Programme. So we've started to introduce the concept of intercultural competence to PTSB, which has been really, really impactful for colleagues. I think one of the standouts for me has been the Unity Network. So again, very similar to a lot of the speakers today, we have 5 fantastic employee resource groups who are led by passionate, dedicated volunteers. And it really has been an evolution. So our first employee resource group, PRISM, was launched in 2019, and that network has evolved and grown over the years. And in 2024, when we founded our most recent ERG Adapt, I think when we got together, it was really clear that we had an opportunity. There was such a large representation of colleagues across the ERGs. And it was so intersectional. There were so many people that aligned to more than one ERG or were moving between the ERGs. We really wanted to elevate our voice internally and externally. So it was really clear that we had an opportunity to bring the ERGs together, collaborate, support each other, and really represent the whole network. So in acknowledgement of that, we agreed to bring the ERGs together. We worked with our brand team to redesign the look and feel of the network, which is a small thing, but I suppose each of the ERGs have been established at different stages over the years, even down to different logos had been designed at different stages by different designers. And we really wanted to align to our brand promise of Altogether More Human. So we worked with brand and marketing, we redesigned the look and feel, and we brought all the ERGs together as the Unity Network. And the impact that we've seen, again, particularly in the last year, has been huge. Lots of people have been feeling vulnerable. Many of our communities within the network have been under attack. And those messages from the front, from our senior leaders in support of all our communities coming together as unity has been really powerful. We also, when we launched the Unity Network, went through an executive committee sponsor refresh. And very interesting, this was on the request of our CEO, who wanted to rotate the EXCO sponsors. And he really saw the opportunity to develop, and the learning opportunity for the executive committee to learn more about our colleagues and step probably outside their comfort zones a little bit. So we now have an enhanced EXCO sponsor model. We have 2 sponsors for each ERG, which gives each ERG additional, strategic support, improved engagement, and the opportunity to build relationships with members of the executive committee, which is quite unique, but also gives the executive committee the opportunity to learn more about colleagues. Some of the deliverables from the ERG perspective in the last year, even, we've had the highest ever participation in Pride activities. We have a female mentoring program from our Gender Balance ERG who've supported over 600 mentees. We've delivered financial wellbeing supports. We've delivered parental supports for parents of children with disabilities. And we've delivered the fantastic Say My Name campaign from our DICE ERG, who really help people understand the importance of somebody's name and taking the time to learn how to pronounce it. So some very simple concepts, but very, very impactful. Some of our other foundational initiatives that I'd say. And again, it's great to see some of these names coming up throughout the conversations today. The Trinity Centre for People with Intellectual Disabilities, we've partnered with for a number of years. The DCU Access to Education, we support some students in Loreto on the Green, our local school in our head office. We've founding signatories of the Women in Finance Charter and have supported best practice sharing events through that platform. Carla mentioned business in the community earlier. We're very passionate supporters of the Elevate Pledge. And we use that data for anybody that's not familiar with the Elevate report. There's 70 plus companies across Ireland that contribute to it every year. And we use that data regularly as a benchmark to make sure that we are reflective of the Ireland that we're serving alongside the CSO data, which is really important to us. We've supported the FSI, so the Financial Services Ireland within IBEC, in building out DEI and neurodiversity pillars. And of course, we sponsored the fantastic Irish Centre for Diversity conference last year and the breakout room on neurodiversity. And another, I suppose, pioneering partnership that was mentioned by the judges was our support of both the Olympics and Paralympics in 2024. And, we were the first company to ever support both Olympics and Paralympics, which is amazing to think of, but fantastic that we got to be part of that journey. From a community perspective, as I said, we're in the community. We've 98 branches around Ireland, so it's really important that we're tuned into those customers. We have a community fund which runs every year. It's actually open for voting at the moment, so a quick plug. If you do see it, everybody's open to vote and contribute. And there's some fantastic organisations, charities that are in there. Those charities are voted on initially by our colleagues within PTSB and then goes to a public vote. So last year we had, and again, I think Carly, you mentioned Sanctuary Runners, Women's Aid was on the list, Accessible Counselling, fantastic charities that are so aligned to our ERGs. And each year, already we've donated over 2.5 million to the community partners and introduced a skills sharing option in the last year. So some of our marketing team are currently supporting Women's Aid through workshops aimed at developing their marketing and communication strategy. Our partnership with As I Am is incredibly important, and PTSB, the first autism-friendly bank in Ireland. By the end of last year, all our 98 branches were accredited by As I Am. And this really sees, I suppose, a crossover between DEI, ERGs, sustainability. So our ADAPT ERG is working really closely to make sure all our offices are now sensory mapped and have the As I Am accreditation, which just aligns, I suppose, all the different businesses. Some of the other key sponsorships, for example, are Corolla House Carnival, our Dublin Pride, and aligned to a Prism ERG. And then we started to work with Common Purpose on our legacy program. I'm sorry, I have a 6-year-old who's just arrived into the room to say hello. I'll be into in a second, okay? Thank you.
I just need to say, when I finish my snacks, can I have some more?
Yes, I'm on, yes. So apologies for that. There's an earlier interruption telling me we needed to get a praying mantis, so I'm pleased that a snack check-in wasn't too bad. And I suppose, so finally, as I'm conscious of time, customers really are a very important part of everything we do from a DEI perspective, and very much aligned to our brand promise of ultimate together more human. We've introduced voice guidance functionalities in our ATMs. We've supports for visually impaired customers. We have a small notch on our credit cards and our banking cards to support visually impaired customers. We've easy to read guides on our everyday banking journeys, which are available in branches now, which have been developed directly from feedback from customers with intellectual disabilities. Our branch colleagues have had love training. We've jam cards in branches. And then we've an annual customer closeness event, which sees members of our exec committee and our SLT go out and meet members of the public and get feedback on our app, or services, and bank overall. And that very much feeds into everything that we do. Our main message, and I think anyone that was there Friday night, is that we're authentic in everything that we do. We listen to our colleagues, we listen to our customers, and we listen to the communities we work in, and just try and evolve to stay authentic in everything that we do. So apologies for the small interruption there, but hopefully that covers off some of what we were awarded the Company of the Year for. But thank you.
Thanks, Norma. And it was great to get a little bit more, I suppose, insight in terms of how you got to be the winner. And oh my goodness, the amount of work there is phenomenal. So congratulations again. And I'm going to hand back to Andrew.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. That was amazing. I took incredible amounts of notes there, but just some common themes before I get to the thank yous. Common themes that I noticed were the role of leadership, having them on board and having them act as role models and kind of walking the talk. The valuable role of collaboration and engaging experts in the field. So common names were Gorham, Open Doors, Sanctuary Runners, Trinity Disability Unit. The importance of kind of tying the work that you're looking to do or you're doing to data, and that whole data-driven decisions piece. Belonging, moving beyond diversity inclusion to building trust and ensuring that everybody has a voice and really feels that they belong. Engaging everyone, as I said, yeah, that was it. So amazing, some amazing work being done there, and it would have been criminal for me to cut anybody off because I've learned a huge amount there. So and I hope that everyone else watching this that took part did as well. Right, on to the thank yous then quickly. Thank you everyone for sticking with us to the end. As I said, it would have been criminal to cut anyone off. So thank you to everyone for the sharing that you've given. And thank you for keeping to time loosely. Thank you to our guest appearance there. Apologies for keeping your mum over time. Massive thank you to Carmel and Jones Engineering. Thank you to our finalists. Thank you to Paula, our highly commended, and finally thanks to Norma, our winner. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Kira for all the work in the background. The recording, as I said, will be available very shortly through the website. And on the website pages, you can also sign up for future sessions in the series and view other recordings in series. Our website address is icfd.ie. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.